What comes to mind easily for me is the banking sector, and it's where a lot of us play in terms of where we keep our funds. Some people have families that work there, support their families, and we've seen that since 2017, the sector has been going down. Yes, the regulator will argue that it's strong, it's stable, but to the ordinary man, he doesn't see anything. I will consider that as the biggest threat to the economy right now, the banking sector. Will you agree with that assertion?
Yes, to some extent,
okay.
but not wholly. I think the banking sector is beginning to stabilize, if you ask me, and from the data that's available to me, it is stabilizing. There are going to be some very headwinds, I mean, as we go along the line, especially for banks who have not met their minimum capitalization, yeah. And those who stand the risk of being downgraded if Bank of Ghana goes by that approach. I'm not so sure whether any of them will lose their licenses altogether. So that may be the bad news. But for businesses, and I like to focus on businesses, what does this bad news mean? If, for example, you are saving or you are rather running your business with a bank which hasn't met its capitalization, or which hasn't got the wherewithal to be able to finance your transformation as Africa transforms, then it becomes a threat. But I think in the banking sector for businesses, to me, there's likely to be more good news in 2019 because I expect interest rates to drop. Okay. That's perhaps the only prediction I will leak this year until we come to crystal ball.
And we've seen that over the course of the year, it's been dropping marginally. Some argue it's still high. Some will argue that, okay, you know what, the Bank of Ghana's interventions, for example, the Ghana reference rate, is going to take some time to kick in before we have the full effect of an interest rate drop to a level where people like me, the common man, can go and borrow. So yes, I would say okay to that.
But not to cut you, okay, I think
no problem.
One of the challenges about making predictions, which makes it different from prophecy, is that we are not hearing a voice, and the voice is telling me to tell you something. We look at data.
Okay.
But one of the mistakes I noticed that people make is they seem to focus on just one event and expect that they can make a prediction from that event. Now, yes, the Ghana reference rate will take some time to have the larger influence. But bank lending rate is dictated by just more than that.
Yes.
What is going to happen in the US, as an example, as a global event, is will have a significant effect.
So that's one threat to a business.
Well, it's not a threat. If you look at the global economy, the US economy is likely to slow down significantly.
Okay.
We pray it doesn't get into a recession. The Chinese economy will slow down. But anytime those big economies slow down, there's rather a positive effect in Africa.
Okay.
Especially because we are not so much integrated into the global economy properly. And if you look at the last period, 2007, 2008, all the way 2011, when they had the so-called financial crisis, it was much easier to borrow here because monies which are not receiving the return on capital there look for other sources of investments, and that Africa is one of the places. So this combination of events rather will benefit Africa, in my view.
Okay.
And interest rates are rather likely to drop. That's what I see. So there's a more likely positive effect on businesses in terms of the ability to have cost of capital dropping. Access to capital is a different question, and that's a separate issue that we will discuss at the crystal ball as well.
Okay. Again, just on the banking, data from the Bank of Ghana show that the banks, as they are trying to avoid the high stock of non-performing loans, are moving away from lending to investments in securities. And even if you check the data, investments in shares, equities, has even dropped marginally. But you see that there's a preponderance of the funds going to investments in securities and less to lending, which means that, Mr. Dorte, you and I, when we go to a bank, we'll not get money.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that would be a major threat because I see that our businesses, more often than not, do a lot of debt financing rather than equity financing. Mm-hmm. If you even go to a startup and you say, okay, you know what, let me contribute to your business. He says no, he wants to do it all by himself. He rather go and borrow from a bank. I would say that's a big threat to businesses.
It is, but that threat is not specific to 2019. It's more of a psyche issue regarding how businesses see their growth, trajectory, and where they want to own 100% of one instead of 10% of 100. I mean, that's a psyche issue.
Okay.